Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about Shrapnel by Kim Anderson. Now this is a trick that I've been looking forward to for a while after seeing all the videos on social media, especially around Blackpool. So this is a trick I actually picked up myself, and we're talking to Kim Anderson about trying to get him on the podcast, and we're hoping to do that at some point. But he very kindly said he'd send us a version of Shrapnel for a review, and he actually sent that to Steve Spade, my co-host, so we'll be getting his opinions on what he thinks of it. But this one here I purchased, so I'll be giving my thoughts on it, and then we'll get Steve's opinion, which I'll go through a little later on. But to begin with, let's talk about, if you order Shrapnel and it comes in the post, what do you get? So you've ordered Shrapnel, it comes in the mail. What do you get? Well, I have the packaging here, so we'll have a quick look at that. This is the packaging, as you can see. Try and get it out of the light. That's the packaging there. So it's really cool packaging, slides open, as you can see, and inside there you get everything you need. So inside the packaging you get everything you need. You get a practice ring, which I have here, which is really nice, like a wedding band, which is like a practice ring, but you could also use this lot during performance. You get some safety pins, you get the gimmick and stuff that you need, and what's amazing is you also get this really cool tin. See if I can get the light off this, if I go bring it in here. There's the really cool tin that you can get with Anderson's name on it. He's got his own thing. It's nice and small. It's not too big, which I really like. It's about half the size of a deck of cards. It's about the same thickness as the deck of cards. It's about half the size. I think I have a deck here. Yeah, an old battered box, but as you can see, it is about half the size of a deck of cards. Just there like that. So it's about a little bit thinner, but around the same thickness as a deck of cards. So that's what you get, and this is what you'll be carrying around with you if you want to perform the trick. So as well as this, you also get a piece of paper with the instructions on it, which I'm obviously not going to show you here. But for now, let's move on to the instructions and let me tell you what they're all about. So the instructions for Shrapnel. One of the things I really like with the instructions is it's got performances that were shot in my home country of Ireland, up in Dublin. So it was weird watching a magic thing and seeing like accents that I'm familiar with on the performance, and they got some cool performance footage, and I like it was kind of shot similar to a magic special where a lot of the filming was on the audiences reacting to the trick. You do get to see the routine, and there's also an in-studio performance where you get to see everything, but I really like that, seeing how people are reacting to this magic that you get. So when you get into instructions, there are two separate videos. The first video is about 15 minutes, and that's just all performances, and then underneath that there's 2 hours of explanations, or just over 2 hours of explanations. At the start of that video, everything is broken down into chapters, so you can see the chapter. So if you want to skip ahead to a specific point, that's there for you, but it is just one long 2-hour video, which I will touch on again in a little bit. But yeah, it's just one 2-hour video, and then you go through it. So Kim Anderson, he's in an apartment where it's being filmed by Mitch, and Mitch comes in for some of the performances in the studio, which is really nice, and they have such a good rapport, and it's probably one of the funniest instructional videos I've watched in a long time, which makes the 2 hours fly by, because you get Kim's personality and cutting jokes throughout it, and they leave the takes run a bit longer, so you get their like reactions after they've shot something, and the like taking the piss and that sort of stuff, just having a good time filming, which is always nice to see, because if they're having fun when you're learning it, you'll have fun, and it's so much better. So everything is taught in great detail. There's a lot of stuff where it's really like you can see some stuff over the shoulder, and also just through camera, so you can see it, and he really spends time going through all the moves. This is something that is going to, you're going to want to pay attention to, because like orientation of safety pins and hand positioning and all that sort of stuff is very important. I'm also left-handed. A lot of people don't know I'm left-handed because I perform as a right-handed card magician, but in everything else I'm left-handed. So I had to spend extra time like tweaking stuff just to make it work for me. So like making sure I was holding things in the right way, because it was slightly different. So if you are left-handed, you might have to just think about that as you're performing it and kind of figure it out. But it's not too difficult. It's pretty much the same, just on the other side. But besides that, the instructions are really cool. You might have to go back over a few times just to make sure you're holding everything in the correct manner. And again, some of the stuff is quite knacky, so it does take practice. This isn't sort of a thing where like you're going to pick it up and then go perform it later on that night. But they really do, in the whole video, make sure everything's covered. Also in the instructions, they talk about good tips for when you're using a borrowed ring and when it's appropriate, when it's not, and treating stuff with respect, which is really nice to see. And also at the beginning, a lot of the routines taught in the normal way of standing up when you're performing in a walk around situation, or which hang out with friends. But then there's also an extra bit near the end where he talks about how to perform this in a seated position and how you can take advantages of being seated and all that sort of stuff. So definitely with the instructions, the quality of the filming is exceptional. It's really nice. The audio is perfect. You really get to see it's entertaining, and you get taught absolutely everything you know. It's well over, or just over the 2 hours, so it's definitely worth checking out. And again, you can go back over it whenever you want. So they are the instructions. So now let's go on to, is it difficult? So is this a difficult trick? That depends. If you're someone who is into a lot of sleight of hand, really sleight of hand heavy, and you have a lot of practice with that, you might pick this up quicker. But there's definitely a lot of stuff is quite knacky. It will take time, will take practice, because it's kind of like a feeling that you want to make sure you're right. So this is something that will take a bit of time. At the beginning, I was useless at it. It took me a long time to be able to get some of the basic stuff down. But after about 20-30 minutes, I was starting to get it, and things were being a lot more successful, and I could see the progress. But still, I wouldn't be happy performing this in the real world quite yet. But it is something I will be practicing a bit more, messing around with, because it's also fun to do when it happens. It's like you just see two things, like metal melt through metal when you're doing it, so it's a fun thing to practice. But this will take a good bit of practice, and you should, because it's deserves the respect that you should give it by practicing this as much as you can and making sure that you have it down, and also getting the routine and the flow, because there's a few options you can do as well, and like make your own routine with some of the stuff. You don't have to do everything in it. So there are some very simple pieces that you could do pretty much right away, but I don't think that's ideal. I think it's better to try and incorporate some of the more difficult visual aspects of the routine before you go up and perform it. So I'd say on a difficulty scale, I'd say it's definitely intermediate in that sort of level, so you would want to spend the time with it. But that being said, it's more just about practicing that. So if you are a beginner and you want to check it out, I would recommend picking this up. It could be a cool thing to have as a beginner, as like practicing it, but just know that you will have to practice this quite a lot. It's not like something like other things that I reviewed, like some app like Timeline where you can just go and perform it right away. This will take a bit of practice, so in that case it's more difficult than some things, but again, it's nothing that's killer. You're not going to be cramping in the hands and take 6 months to get down. You will get this down in a few days of practice to a good level. So definitely, I think it's worth the practice, so give it a go. And that's the difficulty. So let's move on to the next section. So this week, this section is usually Steve's questions, but because Steve also was sent one of these for the review, this is Steve's opinion. So we've had conversations of this on the phone and talked through it on what Steve thinks about it. So this is a trick that immediately once I saw it, I thought Steve was going to love this, because for people who don't know, Steve does a lot of escapes and escape stunts and that sort of stuff. And he's always been looking ways of incorporating that into his close-up work. And I think this sort of routine is perfect, because I think anybody looking at it can see the presentational ideas that you can come up with of a ring locked in somewhere and it can escape and like redo things. It's kind of like you can do almost like an in and out style routine, but in a very close up environment. So there's definitely some very cool things there. Some of the stuff that he mentioned is, again, with the instructions being very good and the quality of the gimmicks were very good, that you feel confident you have it and like that you get everything with it. So Steve really liked this effect. And again, it's going to be something he'll be practicing, and I'm sure he said he's going to be performing this as well, and I'm sure he will. It's going to definitely be there. So it's definitely a thumbs up from Steve on this one. So let's move on now to the next bit. So frequently asked questions, it's just things that I've seen online. So I've seen a few things online about this. I actually asked in some of the Facebook groups for magicians on Facebook about what people are worried with this and what they were thinking. So one of the questions somebody had was about, could you put this on your keys and have it as an everyday carry? So the actual safety pin with the ring on it that you use at the beginning of the routine definitely can be put there and carried around. But I would be nervous having the gimmicks that are involved on a keychain. I think it could be, I'd be worried I'd lose it. So I personally wouldn't do this. I think carrying it around in the little box that you get with it is the right way to do it. It doesn't take up much space. You can just throw that in your pocket or inside jacket pocket, jeans pocket, anywhere. It doesn't take up that much space, and I think that's probably the best way to carry it around, just for safety and to make sure that at the end of the day, you're carrying safety pins. They bend, they break. So to just keep it safe, I think carrying it in the tin is best. Once you have it, I'm sure you could come up with ways to carry it around on your keys or somewhere else like that, but I personally wouldn't do it. So that's around the everyday carry question with your keys. The other question that people had were about the safety pins themselves. So there's gimmicks involved, and then when you're using safety pins, some people are complaining about the differences between the safety pins. So I have here, if I open this up and just take out a regular safety pin. So this is a regular safety pin, so that's what it is. And this is a safety pin that has gimmick involved, so you can kind of judge that for yourself. Nobody's going to notice. If I switch these up, I don't think you'll be able to tell them apart. So if you're using these a lot, they could bend and stuff like that. So if your ones look slightly different, just bend it. And this is something, again, that an hour and 38 minutes into the instructions, Kim Anderson talks about what to do if you're worried about discrepancy between this sort of stuff. So this is something that, again, people need to watch instructions. Something I'm seeing quite a trend with. Watch the instructions. It's all explained. It's very simple. If you're using a safety pin, safety pins bend. You can tweak them. You can straighten them back up. You can do whatever you want. If they get damaged in your pockets, you might want to do that. It's fine. And at the end of the day, people aren't really going to notice a slight curve in a safety pin or anything like that. So I don't think it's something you have to worry about at all. So from that point of view, again, just watch the instructions. It's covered, and you can always fix anything that happens to these. They're safety pins, they're thin metal. You can bend and move stuff. It's fine. Don't need to worry about it. So that's for frequently asked questions. So now let's move on to things that maybe I didn't like. So with everything, there are things that you mightn't like with this effect. So some of the things for me with this, it's something with some Murphy's Magic products that I've been noticing is in the instructions, they give you like the chapters bit at the start, which is great, and you can skip ahead. But you can see people like the 1914 now have like link chapters underneath, so you can actually click them and it jumps you to that exact point. Kind of like the chapters that we have on YouTube here, that you can see that everything's broken up into chapters. So I think that would be very helpful, because this is instructions that I've been going back to quite a bit to just pick up the little nuances and touches if I'm like struggling with a certain aspect of routine or things like that, and trying to like find that along the timeline could be a bit of a pain. I think it'd be just so much easier if you can just have actual like timestamps that are clickable that can bring you to the exact point, so you don't have to scroll through a 2-hour clip to find like 38 minutes 24 seconds or something like that. That's been a bit of annoyance, especially with something as technical as this, where you might want to just go back and rewatch little aspects. It would be handy just to have that section there. With that being said, that's really the only complaint from like the routine point of view. I think it's great. I like that you get spares of the safety pins. You are happier with that. The tin that comes with it, I think, is brilliant. I will probably carry this around in my pockets a little bit just to batter it up a little bit, because it looks a bit too pristine. But that is for you. Some people want it pristine, which is great. And then just being able to throw that into your pocket, carry it around with you with your keys or whatever, it will tire out. So that's perfect. There's no complaints there. So I think, yeah, it's really the only thing for me would be being able to something just from like a Murphy's Magic thing, especially with this where it's 2 hours long. It would have been nice to even break it up into separate videos or add the little chapters in. But that's the only thing I didn't like about this so far. So let's move on now to the rating. So rating. So for people who might have watched in previous reviews, I don't do ratings in normal ways. I'm not going to give this a score or a mark or percentage or anything like that. I'm talking about where I'll be using this. So this is an interesting one. It's slightly different because I bought this because I liked the idea of it and the routine, but I perform mainly mentalism or a mental style magic. I'm transitioning more and more that way, especially in my close-up work. So from a professional side of things, I don't see this going into like my main act. And it would be more something I'll be doing socially, or I will have it in like my close-up bag with me in case I want to pull out one more thing for someone who asks, who might have seen me perform before and they wanted to show that extra thing. I'd have it there. But I really think this for me is something that I'll be using socially when I'm hanging out with friends or friends of friends, because I tend to do a lot more magic in those situations as well, more visual magic and things like that. So for me, this wouldn't be like an everyday carry, but it would be like a some night carry. So I'd bring this with me for some nights out or meeting up with friends, that sort of stuff. So that's where I see myself using this a lot. And then as well, maybe as a backup at gigs for that side of things. But that's why I bought this, because that's what I saw it as. If you saw this as a routine that you want to do professionally on gigs and that sort of stuff, definitely think it would work great at gigs. I'd really do it at like a big banquet table, but I think in like a mix and mingle type event it could work really well, or at a smaller banquet table if there's nothing that's really obstructing the view, you could really work it. But for me, I didn't see this as something I'd be doing at all my professional walk-around gigs, because it doesn't really suit my style in that environment. But if you think it does, I definitely can't see any issues with it. So for me, this is going to be a someday carry, and that's my rating for Shrapnel. I really enjoy it, looking forward to playing with it a bit more, and I hope you like it too. So Shrapnel by Kim Anderson, do you have it? Have you bought it? If you do, let your thoughts down below. Again, try not to expose any methods. Any comments that expose methods will get deleted. So let me know your thoughts, what you think about it. If you have any other questions that weren't covered in this, comment them down below and I'll try and answer them as best I can as well. And if you're watching this, you made the whole way through, please subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. We really appreciate it, and share it out to anybody you know who might be interested or thinking about purchasing this. We've been blown away. Our subscriber count has shot up since we started doing these, so we're really happy. So thanks so much to everyone who has subscribed, and if you haven't, please give it a subscribe. We had no podcast this week, but we have some next week, and we've got some really cool ones coming in March, so it's going to be absolutely amazing. Definitely make sure you hit the notifications bell as well to keep up to date with all that sort of stuff. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you all again next time.